Right, so welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar today. We're going to be discussing the hot topic of revolutionising catalogue publishing. And we've got Steve Tozer from Coopers of Stortford joining us today. Unfortunately, Daniel Martin last minute couldn't join us, but he's kindly shared a video and given you some insights. We'll be playing that a bit shortly. But thankfully, we've got Steve, production manager at Coopers of Stortford, joining us to talk through his knowledge about the systems and what he does on a day-to-day basis. So first of all, we're just going to kick off, and for those of you that don't know us, we're going to introduce ourselves. So we're EC2I. Matt and myself are from EC2I. We're a creative, technology-first creative production agency. We've worked in this industry with over 20 years of experience. We've been trading for over 22 years and predominantly work with fashion and lifestyle clients. So we have a team of in-house developers that have built software solutions to support what we do internally, but then to allow that systems to be utilised by our clients and to sort of improve their own internal productions as well. The systems that we've built have been made up of a PIM, product information management system, a DAM, digital asset management system, and an MPM, so that's a media production management system. So all of those link together and provide a complete end-to-end workflow solution. Technology is one of the complementary services of EC2I alongside all of our production facilities that we have. We've got an in-house photography studio and retouchers, providing high-end quality retouching that some of you already utilise. So it's nice to see that you've joined us today. And we work with many fantastic brands over many different types of businesses. And our passion has been born out of the desire to provide first-class products alongside first-class service. Hopefully that is something that you all experience, those that are working with us. So we think it's a testament to this service why people stick with us for many years. So I'm Julia, I'm the account director at EC2I. I'm going to sort of be hosting today with Matt and Steve, and we're going to be discussing the catalogue management side of things. My role predominantly is to look after new sales and business, but I also assist on our internal house accounts and help the account managers with any queries and things that they might have. And my background was in account management as well, so I've utilised the systems on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to hand over to Matt to introduce himself and then to Steve.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Matt Jones, Systems Director at EC2I, and I oversee the IT department alongside one of the managing directors, Steve Fitzgerald. The department consists of a team of developers and system support staff, and as a collective, we look after all the information technology at EC2I.
Okay. So, Steve, over to you.
Good morning. My name's Steve Tozer. I'm the production manager at Coopers of Stortford, fundamentally responsible for getting pages from conception to press.
Okay, so today we're going to be discussing how Coopers of Stortford boosted their productivity by 30%. So quite a staggering number. But they've implemented systems with our help and have really revolutionised what they're doing from a catalogue production side of things. So we're going to hear a few more people joining, sorry. All right. So we're going to hear a short message from Daniel Martin. Again, unfortunately, he couldn't join us today, but wanted to discuss his thoughts and ideas about what they've actually done. So over to Daniel.
Hi everyone, sorry I can't be there today in person. So a little bit about Coopers of Stortford. We're a multi-channel retailer who specialise in garden, practical household, wellness and home and lifestyle products. Around 40% of our sales are online and 60% are driven through our catalogues. We produce upwards of 46 catalogues a year with approximately 6,000 product SKUs in our business. We have 160 employees and last year our turnover was 52 million. I've been with Coopers for 3 years and I manage the digital and print production teams. So why did we need a solution and what issues were we hoping to resolve? Our processes were very manual, from handing physical sheets of paper to designers with page layouts to grappling with multiple data sources, spending hours hunting down the latest information, be it product copy, images, or pricing. Our primary objective was to increase our output of catalogue pages, and with a stretched team who, due to the pandemic, were already working remotely. We needed to speed up the production process and streamline our workflows. To do this, we recognised that we needed one version of the truth, and we couldn't continue to rely on our manual processes if we wanted to achieve our objectives. What really helped was that the board of directors here at Coopers were quickly able to see the value that the EC2I systems could bring to the business. And there was a shared willingness to invest time and money to get the systems in place. So having buy-in from the top and, importantly as well, from the team who would be working with the systems was a great benefit in making the project a success. So what were the results? So like I said, the pandemic did force our hand and we needed to react to digitize our manual processes. So the business case was clear for us to proceed. We digitized our production process with all of our data being pushed now to catalogue pages in the confidence that it was correct and the most up-to-date information that we had. And so now we have a single source of truth for over 6,000 of our product SKUs. We also managed to reduce our rounds of artwork by 50%. As a result of implementing the EC2I systems meant we streamlined our internal processes as well. And this halo effect where we had more structured feedback from across the business really helped. So with the same team, we're able to absorb a 15% increase in pages that we were producing as we jumped from 132 page catalogue to 156 pages. And as the business considers increasing the number of pages even more, we know that we can do that with the confidence that it's not going to be hindered by the limitations of our production process. So thank you for listening. If there are any questions, please contact Julia or Matt, and I'm sure they'd be happy to share my contact details. And thank you for listening.
Daniel? Okay. So we're going to kick off talking about the challenge with Steve. So can you tell us, Daniel mentioned a bit in his video there, but pre-pandemic, what issues were facing your production, Steve?
Our production system, in hindsight, being a wonderful thing, was pre-EC2I and pre-pandemic was incredibly fragmented. We had copy on one server, we had images on another server, and we were kind of working, putting all those things together in an extremely manual way. And we were even doing manually lick and stick artwork. So we were probably about as basic as catalogue production can get. With that in mind as well, then having a remote issue forced upon us due to, unfortunately, the pandemic, it was important that we were able to carry on our work, and we were moving towards everything being in one place and linked together, which was far more important. So our imagery was linked to our copy, updatable, accessible, and that in just itself made a huge difference from a production point of view.
So the main challenges that you were trying to overcome then, obviously quite manual tasks, but you'd also been tasked to increase your output of pages, is that right?
That was the problem. When I first came for Coopers, our biggest catalogue was 98 pages. So I think from Daniel's point of view, I think we've already moved to 136, and the challenge was to increase what the products per page, more pages, more revenue. So everything was driven along those lines, but we needed to be far more slick in our processes, and hence the adopt of EC2I, really, who helped us enormously in getting that started. And the challenge is to fundamentally get all your correct data in one place at one time. Once you've done that, the update is very, very easy. And it's a joy. It's a joy when you can do it, knowing that you've got the right copy with the right image all the time.
So ultimately, revolutionising your production, having that one version of truth was the key goal there, what you're actually trying to achieve.
Very much so. The other thing is with Coopers is we don't stay with one size of catalogue. So what we were able to do is we could have body copy that was cut accordingly. We also do a 32-page insert. We'll do a 48-page insert, which goes in national newspapers. And we could use exactly the same data, but trimmed to size, knowing the boxes that we had on the InDesign page were going to be filled up exactly with the right copy. So if you like, we weren't reinventing the wheel every time we did a catalogue.
Mm. So do you know why you sort of all decided to take the leap of faith and buy into the idea and how to make it a success?
I think the leap of faith was taken because everybody could recognise that elements that can combine to make the whole thing were in various different places. And this way, if you've got one central piece holding the information, the necessary key holders can interact with it whilst the thing is still moving. It doesn't have to stop and start. We can move with the times. For argument's sake, we very frequently have, let's say, different colours of products that end up, different sizes of products, therefore, we also change SKU codes on an alarming basis. But all of these things can be done, and again, from one central source, and then expanded out throughout the catalogue range.
Perfect. Okay, so we've identified what the challenge is. So moving on to the actual solution side of things, I remember sort of as the pandemic had hit and we were all working from home, we were sort of tasked and working with you guys to kind of implement Renaissance, our workflow solution. And we did a big scoping project with you to go through and really understand what it was that were the difficulties within the business and how we could potentially help. At the time, we came up with lots of different ideas that covered multiple facets of the business. And that covered sort of data management across the multi-channel output, as well as photography planning and approval processes, catalogue design and production, and the automation of image assets for multi-channel output. So there was lots of options to work with, but there were the catalogue production side of things was the element that you decided to take forward, Steve. So do you know why that was the case, that was the key thing that was really sort of affecting the business at the time?
Well, I think ultimately, COVID showed us an awful lot of things that we probably were unaware of, and that was our demographic. I loved speaking to Coopers customer services people on an ordering perspective, but they loved having a catalogue. And I think Daniel mentioned it earlier that 60% of our business is really generated from catalogue sales. But it's quite strange in moving within 18 months of that happening. We probably then saw that they loved having a catalogue, but then we're quite happy now to order online. So the business moves, but it's still driven around the catalogue revenue. And it's an interesting thing, but we now will have the ability to move over and using the same data to a more web-based solution. And that it's another facet, but the key to that is we're still using the same information, which is vitally important. We haven't got to reinvent the wheel. We're just, if you like, moving that data to another channel.
Okay. So Matt, we'd sort of had this discussion with Coopers and they decided to go along with the catalogue production workflow side of things. So can you take us into a bit more information about what that actually looked like and the journey that they went on to improve their efficiencies internally?
Yeah, sure. So if you can go on to the next slide for me, Judy. So the first task was to consolidate all the Coopers data into one central source. Steve sort of just mentioned there, the data is spread across multiple servers in different locations. So you can appreciate how difficult that would have been to consolidate that data and then create the catalogues. So working with the Coopers team, we looked at the product data categories that are required to suit the Coopers data, and we created attributes and attribute sets. Some of the attributes you can see here in the slide shown, for example, the key identifier, the SKU, the product name, various pricing. So it's just a small example of the attributes that we created. So once this was then established, and if you can go into the next slide for me, Julia. And you can see here that some of the data of the attributes are shown in the left-hand side. Once the attributes and the attribute sets were created, we then needed to import the Coopers data. And this can be done in a couple of ways, via an API feed from a legacy or existing system, or more simply just via a spreadsheet import. So now that we have the product data imported into the system, you can also see on the right-hand side of the slide the product imageries that is linked to the product data in the PIM. Renaissance also has a digital asset management system, as Julia previously mentioned, and the assets on that digital asset management system can automatically be linked to the products in the Renaissance PIM. And this can be done in a couple of ways, either by the key identifier, in Cooper's case, the SKU, or via embedded metadata within the image. And the linking process is fully automated. So now we have all the Coopers data consolidated under one central source. This allows the Coopers team to easily push out that data to various channel outlets. And just as importantly, what they can do is make any changes to the product data centrally from one source, and again push those changes out. Now, the output channels can be catalogue pages, e-commerce websites, point of sale, adverts, email marketing campaigns, and so on.
So essentially, we've consolidated all of their data into the one area in the PIM, bringing all of the assets and the information together. What Steve mentioned earlier, having all of these different sources available to them, it could take some time to collate it. So this is sort of the first step on the journey then, Matt, to kind of get them into an organised fashion, would you say?
That was the key step, yes, the key initial step.
Okay, so Steve mentioned earlier as well about quite a bit of cutting and pasting and manual sticky boarding of doing initial artwork concepts and things like that, where they'd physically cut out previous catalogues and post them onto the wall. By digitising the process, how could they actually move that method of such a very tried and tested method of creating the pages into a digital format?
Yes, so if you hop onto the next slide for me, Julia. So yeah, we have that very task in a digital format within Renaissance, which we call sticky board. So there are links directly from the PIM through to sticky boards. So the catalogue planners at Coopers can search for a product within sticky board, locate the imagery and the product text, and place that within a given area created. So in this case, shown in the slide is the catalogue spreads. So the spread can be built up with the products placed. And if you go to the next slide for me, Julia, you can see an example of a completed spread. And so the catalogue planners will go through and build the whole catalogue. To further enhance this process and to aid the designers, we can then feed the product information placed and the product coordinates through to a InDesign plugin. So if you can hop onto the next slide for me, Julia. You'll see that the plugin is at the bottom, shown at the bottom of the slide, and that is a direct link to the Renaissance PIM and also to the sticky board. And using a tool within the plugin, you can paginate the content to the InDesign spread, which is basically replicating the sticky board spread created by the catalogue planner. And after the pagination process, which is also very useful with the InDesign plugin, is that any changes that are then made to the product data within the PIM, or any layout changes made within sticky board, will be clearly highlighted in the plugin. And this allows the designer to use the plugin to apply those changes to the InDesign file.
Okay, So they've got everything onto their InDesign page now from the information within the PIM, paginated to the page. So the next step of actually circulating that artwork, how do you get it around the business from, printing out multiple copies of the catalogue and distributing to them, to multiple teams within the business? How can they then circulate their designs?
That's where the Renaissance flat plan comes in. If you can go to the next slide for me, Julie. So, as you can appreciate, again, distributing hard copies of lasers around the different areas of the business that they need to review the catalogue is very problematic. And what we've done with an Renaissance flat plan is to centralise that all again in one source. The flat plans go through various cycles. You can start the flat plan process right initially from the sticky board stage or the concept stage, right the way through to then the designers laying out and designing their spreads and uploading files into the workflow, which will automatically update the flat plan again. And these cycles can be continue repeated however many times as required. The flat plans can be shared with individuals or teams. So they can be shared with the individuals or teams, and you can also set deadlines on the flat plans too if you wish to do so. You can move on to the next slide for me, Julia. Now, as part of the flat plans, you also have other options available to you, other tools that are available. So here we have a page turner built in, so you can see the flow and get the feel of the flow of the catalogue. And another popular tool within the accessible from the flat plan is the annotation tool. So any comments made as the flat plan is being reviewed can be applied centrally at source. This is a massive benefit to the designers because they've got one access point to see what comments have been applied, make those changes to the InDesign file, and then upload a new file into the Renaissance workflow for a second round of review, third. Useful tools also within the annotation tool is the comparison tool. So you can easily check that the corrections have been completed in full and correct. So it just aids the checking process. Then the final stage of the workflow that Coopers use is the printer PDFs workflow. So once the catalogue has been completely signed off, they can upload their files into the Renaissance workflow to create printer PDFs that are built specifically for the printer's specifications. Any problems that are potentially picked up, we have inbuilt pre-flight tools. So a pre-flight report will get sent to the Coopers team to address and correct any potential errors that may happen on press. Resubmit the PDFs, and then once the whole thing's signed off, the data is then ready to be supplied to the printer for printing the catalogue.
Okay, so from a design and circulation point of view then, Steve, having these tools available and sort of having the digital way of doing things, how did that help you? I think Daniel had mentioned about reducing the rounds of correction that were required.
It helped us in a number of ways. The first thing is that at a very early stage, the catalogue was visible to all the stakeholders in a digitised form, which means we saved printing out an awful lot of paper. We saved the logistics of everybody had to be in the office. We could, send anything anywhere. So the speed that increased our kind of return proofing was incredible. Because everybody was included from the concept stage, which also enabled the merchandising team, if thankfully in a number of occasions we sold out of products, it was very easily identified and a new product was put in. So the time saved in the very early stages of the catalogue was enormous, because everybody saw it very early. They didn't have to wait, it didn't have to be posted to anybody. Everybody could see it as soon as possible. If it was a new product in there, everybody could approve patch designs. It just saved an awful lot of time for us. That in itself revolutionised the business from a production point of view immensely.
So in terms of updates and things, Steve, you mentioned that you might be product drops if you'd sold out and need to sort of swap them in. How did that, by having all the data centralised, how did that actually help with the updates and doing price changes and things like that?
Well, there's sorry, Julia. There's a number of issues that happen, and Matt touched on them there. For argument's sake, the updates would go back to the sticky board, and if there was a new product put in, the catalogue planner would put that product onto the sticky board, make it available for the designer to update using taking it back into InDesign, updating and synchronizing all the data. The new product was put in again, and that could take, I would say, 10 minutes a patch. So the speed that we could do it, again, bringing all the relative information from the new patch, the copy, the images would all be available, laid out. So the designer, in the first instance, would have a good understanding of how that patch should really look.
And I guess you could sort of guarantee that the content was going to be accurate as well by having it in the PIM, that one central place to be updated.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we did with the copy would have already been checked before it entered the PIM, so we knew it was the correct copy. God forbid any updates where, for argument's sake, there was a technical specification that might have been changed, that would be visible. We could then update that in the PIM. Once the patch was in there, we just synchronized the data. It pulled the new specifications in. So we were constantly up to date, which is hugely important, hugely important.
And I suppose managing multiple publications running at the same time as well, Steve. I think you often have overlaps of multiple publications running, feeding to.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think Matt missed. We all missed it in the early stages. But if we take this page of this book, let's, for argument's sake, this is book number 1. On book number 2, that page is exactly the same size, has exactly the same content, but it's a 20% version. So all of the products on that page would then have a 20% price code on them. Well, on the InDesign page, if you go back to the sticky board, we can reformat the patches to pull in the 20% prices because they're already in the PIM. So we can reformat that page in a matter of minutes because the 20% version, the pricing is already there. And there's a number of ways that you can do this. You can, if you wanted to reuse that page, we have folders in the server that are relative per catalogue campaign. So we could copy the InDesign page over from one catalogue into the next one, update the sticky board, and then make that InDesign page link to the new 20% version, and we're off and running again. So a real key issue is reusing the same data. You're not reinventing it, it's there. You've just got to reformat it in a different way. And I think sometimes that's really undersold from our point of view.
So you can actually create more versions a lot quicker than you could previously.
I mean, this could be 168 pages. We could be running another 168 pages alongside it. We could be running a 32-page version and a 48 version simultaneously, and quite often we do. So there's consistency in quality. There's a consistency in data. Hugely important to Coopers.
Perfect. Okay, so moving on to the result then. Once you'd implemented all of these systems, reiterating what Daniel had mentioned earlier, some of the biggest wins for the business were the ability to digitize the production, have that single source of truth, reducing the artwork amends. What would you add to that, Steve? What were the benefits that you found?
From my point of view, I could work far more. I could work on more publications simultaneously, but with a greater knowledge that the information was going to be correct. So from my point of view, it cut out an awful lot of checking processes that we would have had in place. And the other thing is, and not to be undersold, is the ability to work remotely, which has kind of changed Coopers. And I'm sure it's changed a lot of companies as well, in as much as, you know, post-pandemic, a lot more people are working from home. We can use this system just as well from home as we can from the office. So we tend to have completely changed our marketing strategy, in as much as possibly most of us are in 2 days at the most in the office, having a marketing meetings, you know, collectively thrashing out ideas, and the rest of it is based on production. So yeah, we are, although don't tell anybody, we are ultimately a much more streamlined and successful business as a result of this.
Fantastic. I think you mentioned when we had a chat earlier about the integrity of the data and how that's actually really supported the increase in output that you were having to deal with.
Indeed, yeah.
I think mentioning here, you've increased the output by 15% and reduced the rounds of artwork and men's by 50%. So, you know, coming to that 30% boost of productivity that you're finding within the business.
Indeed, yeah, indeed. Again, the rounds of artwork are simply cut down because everybody can see everything simultaneously. So, you know, you're not waiting for one person to give you some. We previously, believe it or not, we would print out catalogues and give them to the various departments that required it. What would happen then is they would mark up that would come back to production side of things. We would have to mark up everybody's markup, which could be different in every catalogue, which took hours. You know, and we bypassed that. In fact, I think we surprised ourselves in you know, we look back on that now thinking, did we really do that? You know, and the answer was yes, we did, but we no longer do.
Yeah. I know you're sort of always looking for the next efficiencies. Now you're more efficient. You've got to be doing more and more.
That's the worrying part about it now.
Daniel had given me some stats about what you'd actually managed to achieve on, say, autumn campaigns, where you previously had created 1,900 pages for autumn winter and then managed to output 2,250 pages within the same period without any kind of increase of staff, just by utilising the systems and the efficiencies that it would provide. I think you mentioned as well before, Steve, how when you started, you were doing, was it 98 pages?
98 pages was our biggest catalogue, yeah.
168 within the same time frame, if not?
Put it this way, we would have never done as many catalogues as we now currently do. We used to do 98 pages, but we possibly didn't do as many catalogues per campaign. Now, on average, we do 6 or 7 catalogues per campaign. Time frame wise, we kind of indulged ourselves in using the time that we've saved in producing another catalogue. So, you know, it's for us, it's been a win-win, no two ways about it.
And business sales and things off the back of those catalogues, is that sort of you're seeing your return on investment there?
I think without a doubt. And our reactivity as well, the way we're able to react to the market conditions. For argument's sake, we penned a catalogue that is due to be early on last year, that was due to be, you know, a more garden-based catalogue. The weather changed, looked like we were going to be a dismal, garden sales would go down. We changed the feel of the catalogue. We did it very, very quickly. So the ability to react is also a major factor.
Fantastic. Okay. So I think we've got a nice quote from you here about being able to do price and product changes and how impossible it wouldn't have been. So I think we all give ourselves a bit of a pat on the back for that. And I'm really glad that we've worked with you on this, and you can actually see those changes throughout the business and how it's actually really improving your production. So moving on to the future, what else is in store for Coopers? Obviously, you're focusing on the catalogue production to begin with, but the systems are suitable to utilise throughout the business. And I know we've been in talks about the web side of things, integrating e-com and feeding that through as well. So the sort of efficiencies that can be made can obviously continue throughout the business as well, Steve.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, certainly the web is, we already operate a website, and you know, the data that we use is currently being used, but not used. The same data is being used, but not, excuse me, from one centralized source as such to the web. Whereas we want the web to port into us, and again, use the data, be able to update. I think the difference, obviously, between print and web is they can change prices and they're there instantly. Once the catalogue is printed, it's done and dusted. So we need to be up, you know, we need to be as good as we possibly can with the catalogue, but also be able to respond to the web trend as well. And the other thing that is coming to light is that obviously Coopers are part of a wider group, and it's how we can react to that, you know, within that wider group to maybe standardize what we do from the way we buy product and the way we print product and so on and so forth. And that kind of rationalization is taking place as well. And I have to say, probably Cooper's side of the business are leading the group's decisions on that.
Fantastic to hear. Okay, I'm just having a look at the time and I feel like we need to hand over to the team. Just want to say thank you, Steve, again for joining us and for giving us the insight into Coopers. It's really helpful. And again, sorry, Daniel couldn't be with us last minute. If you have questions that you would want to discuss with us after, then obviously please get in touch with Matt and myself, and we can then feed through questions to Steve and Daniel as well if you need. But we'll open up to the floor if there's any questions, and we can try and answer them for you.